Hello to all. Let's talk about the singleton design pattern. Singleton pattern enables an application to create the one and only one instance of a class per JVM in all the possible scenarios. So here you can see. For example, runtime class. Runtime class is on a class in the Java which is a singleton in nature. To get the object of this class, we have to just only use one factory method, that is the get runtime method, right? So there are several ways to create a singleton class. Singleton using eager, lazy, and the build solution. Let's talk about one by one. In the eager approach, if you see, this is the simplest method of creating a singleton class. In this, object of a class is created when it is loaded into the memory by the JVM. It is done by assigning the reference of an instance directly. It can be used when the program will always use instance of this class, or the cost of creating the instance is not too large. So it is its drawback. If the cost of the instance creation is too large, then we cannot use this approach because it is taking longer time, right? So it also the profit of this approach is that CPU time is also wasted in creation of instance. It is if it is not required, right? So let's talk about the exception handling thing over here. In this approach, we cannot handle the exceptions in the object creation, right? So let's talk about the second approach, that is the lazy initialization approach. In this method, object is created only if it is needed. This may prevent resource wastage. An implementation of getInstance method is required, which return the instance. Here you can see, right? There is a null check that if object is not created, then create. Otherwise, return the previous object, right? Instance is kept as a private so that no one from the outside can access this. So it may be used in the multiple threaded object, but here it is the drawback that it can be used only for the same single thread approach. If we have to reach to the multiple thread approach, then there is a synchronization we need to do over the method. Here is the thread safe approach, you can see. So inside it, rather than making the complete method as a synchronized, which has a drawback, right? It will take more time over here to complete this method. So rather than doing this, we have used the synchronized block, and over here we have used the class level log. And we are checking double time over here and returning the new instance, right? If you go about the third approach, that is the build bug implementation, or we can say initialization on demand. So prior to the Java 5, memory model had a lot of issues, and above methods caused failure in certain scenarios in the multi-threaded environment. So Bilbug suggested a concept of inner static class to use for the singleton. Here, when a singleton class is loaded, inner class is not loaded, and hence doesn't create object when loading the class. Inner class is created only when getInstance method is called. So it may seem like eager initialization, but it is lazy initialization. And this is one of the best approach I can see till now, right? Breaking the singleton pattern. Now we see that every singleton pattern that we have created earlier, right? It can be break, right? Suppose that take this example. Here we have make an instance over here and initializing over there. Now someone can break this approach using the reflections API. Let's see how. Suppose that this was the class reflection prone singleton. We are creating the instance of the reflection prone singleton using the class. So by loading at the runtime using the class.forName, we are getting the class type object over here, right? And from this class type object, we are getting its constructor using the getDeclare constructor. And once we have received the constructor of this class, we can make it as a public by using its method set accessible true. So once we have make it as a true, it is publicly available. Now we can, if we create new instance method on this constructor, then it will return us a new object. If we compare O1 and O2 over here, it will return as a false. Earlier it was the true. So now, how can we make our this approach as a singleton approach as reflection safe? So in order to make it as a reflection safe, we have to create a count here, and once we are inside the constructor, we have to increment this count. So every time a constructor is called, a new object it needs to create, right? At that time we are incrementing it, and once we have incremented it second time, if we are trying to do so, it will throw an error, right? But it is only when using the reflections we are trying to make it as a public, right? Otherwise we can directly call this method get instance method. It always return a same object. Thanks for watching.